When I first married my husband, Daniel, I thought I knew exactly how my life was going to unfold. We met in college, both young and full of dreams, and I remember thinking that nothing could ever break the bond we had. He was charming, ambitious, and had this way of making me feel like I was the only woman in the world. For years, we built a life together, brick by brick, moment by moment. But no matter how carefully you build something, sometimes the cracks appear where you least expect them. I want to tell my story because it's one of those experiences that changes how you see love, trust, and yourself. People often say you never truly know your partner, and I never believed that until I did. It started one summer evening when Daniel came home from work later than usual. He looked tired, his shirt wrinkled, and his tie loosened. I could tell something was bothering him. I asked if everything was okay, and he just brushed it off, saying it was just work stress. At the time, I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He had never given me a reason to doubt him. But as weeks went on, I noticed changes. He started being on his phone more often, turning it away when I walked into the room. He spent extra time in the bathroom, scrolling, smiling at messages I wasn't meant to see. My gut started to whisper things I didn't want to hear. I told myself I was being paranoid, that marriages go through phases, that maybe he just needed space. But deep down, I knew. The turning point came when I accidentally saw a message light up on his screen one night while he was asleep. It was from a woman named Claire. The message wasn't overly intimate, but the familiarity was there. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow" is not something you send to a coworker at midnight. My heart sank. Instead of confronting him right away, I decided to wait. I wanted to be sure. I wanted to watch the truth unfold rather than accuse him with only suspicion. Over the next few weeks, I quietly observed. I saw how he smiled differently when he texted her, how he seemed more distant with me but energized whenever he received her messages. It hurt in ways I can't even explain, but I kept my silence. One Friday, he told me he had a business dinner. Something about the way he said it felt rehearsed. After he left, I decided I couldn't just sit at home wondering anymore. I called my best friend, Hannah, and told her everything. She didn't even hesitate before suggesting we drive by the restaurant he mentioned. We pulled up across the street, and my heart nearly stopped. Through the large glass window of the restaurant, I saw him sitting at a table, leaning in close to a woman who was definitely not a client or coworker. They laughed. They touched hands across the table. The intimacy was undeniable. My hands shook as Hannah squeezed mine, whispering, "I'm so sorry." That night, when he came home, I didn't say a word. I just watched him walk through the door, hang up his coat, kiss me on the cheek like nothing had happened. And that's when something inside me shifted. I decided I was done being blind. If he could watch me every day with the pretense of love while secretly investing his emotions elsewhere, then I could watch him too. But this time, I wouldn't watch with blind faith. I'd watch with clarity. The days that followed were strange. I didn't confront him right away. Instead, I studied him. I watched how he moved, how he lied, how he thought I couldn't see through the excuses. It was painful, but also strangely empowering. I was no longer the woman in the dark. I was the one holding the light. Eventually, I couldn't keep it inside anymore. One evening, I asked him to sit down. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Daniel, I know about Claire." The way his face drained of color told me everything I needed to know. He tried to deny it at first, then minimized it, saying it was just talking, that it didn't mean anything. But the truth is, emotional betrayal cuts just as deep as physical betrayal. Maybe even deeper. I told him I had watched him, that I had seen him at the restaurant, that I knew more than he realized. He didn't have an escape. For once, the man who had been watching me, judging me, analyzing me as his faithful wife, was now the one under the microscope. And I was the one holding the lens. What followed was weeks of arguments, tears, late-night conversations that went nowhere. He apologized, begged, swore he would change. But something inside me had shifted permanently. Once you see your partner in a new light, it's impossible to go back to the old vision. I didn't make my decision overnight. Marriage is complicated, and love doesn't just disappear. We had history, memories, years of building a life together. But I also had myself to protect. And I realized that watching him, seeing the truth for what it was, had given me the strength I needed. In the end, I chose to leave. It wasn't easy. Packing up my things, saying goodbye to the house we had built, the dreams we once shared. It broke me in ways I can't put into words. But it also freed me. Because now I wasn't watching him anymore. I was watching myself, choosing myself, protecting my own heart for the first time in years. Looking back, I see the irony. My husband thought he could live two lives, one with me and one in secret. He thought I would never notice, that I would always be the trusting wife watching him with admiration. But instead, I watched him with clarity. And in that clarity, I found my strength. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Sometimes the person you need to watch most closely is the one you least expect. And sometimes the act of watching, the act of seeing the truth, can be the very thing that saves you. So now, when I think about Daniel, I don't feel anger as much as I feel gratitude. Because he showed me who he really was. And by watching him, I finally learned who I really am. And maybe that's the most unbelievable part of all.